The huge space station called Nexus Prime floated in the dark between stars. It was the size of a small moon and home to millions of beings from across the galaxy. Ships came and went like insects around a bright light. Some were sleek and silver, like the Zephyrian vessels. Others were dark and angular like the warships of the Corvan Empire. A few small simple ships belonged to newer species in the galaxy. Captain Elena Vasquez walked through the wide corridors of Nexus Prime. Her brown uniform looked plain next to the fancy clothes of other species. She carried a simple tablet while aliens around her had floating screens and glowing devices. Some creatures towered over her with 4 arms and crystal skin. Others floated in clear tanks filled with purple gas. All of them barely noticed the human woman as she passed. Elena made her way to the council chamber. The room was massive with seats arranged in circles around a central platform. Each species had their own section with special air and gravity controls. The human section was small and tucked away in a corner. Only 3 humans sat there, while some species filled entire sections with hundreds of representatives. The meeting began with the usual ceremony. A tall, thin, ethereal being floated to the center platform. Its body looked like it was made of light and mist. When it spoke, its voice echoed in everyone's mind rather than through their ears. The Galactic Confederation Council is now in session, the ethereal announced. Today we discuss trade routes through the Vega sector and territorial disputes in the Outer Rim. Elena listened as species argued about shipping lanes and mining rights. The Zephyrians spoke with mechanical precision about efficiency improvements. Their silver skin reflected the lights in the chamber as they presented charts and data. The Corvan representatives snarled and showed their sharp teeth when discussing military patrol zones. Their black armor made clicking sounds as they moved. Hours passed with debates about cargo inspections and tariff rates. Elena took notes on her simple tablet, while other species used advanced holographic displays. She noticed how the other delegates looked at the human section. Some seemed amused. Others appeared annoyed that humans were there at all. Finally, General Thax of the Corvan Empire stood up. He was 8 feet tall with gray skin and red eyes. Scars covered his face from old battles. His voice was deep and harsh when he spoke. "Why do we waste time on these minor issues?" Thax demanded. "The real problem is security in the Outer Rim. Pirates attack our cargo ships. Rebel groups hide on undefended worlds. We need strong military patrols to keep order." Several species nodded in agreement. Others looked worried about Corvan soldiers in their space. Ambassador Zella of the Zephyrians replied with her usual calm tone. "Military force often creates more problems than it solves, General. Perhaps increased cooperation between civilian authorities would be more effective." Thakex laughed, a sound like grinding metal. "Cooperation? Civilians?" He pointed at the human section with one clawed finger. "Like these primitive newcomers, they have, 12 patrol ships? Barely enough to guard their own home system." Elena felt her face grow warm but kept her expression calm. Around the chamber, other species began to chuckle. The Corvan had stated a well-known fact. Humanity's official fleet was indeed small and outdated compared to other species. "Perhaps," Thax continued, "species that cannot defend themselves should focus on mining and farming. Leave security to those with proper military strength." More laughter filled the chamber. Elena looked at her 2 human colleagues. Commander Ross stayed quiet as always. Dr. Chen, their science advisor, looked embarrassed. Elena stood up slowly. "We appreciate the General's concern for our safety," she said in a steady voice. "Humanity will continue to contribute to galactic peace in whatever way we can." Thax grinned, showing his sharp teeth. "Of course you will, little human. Mine asteroids and grow food crops. Leave the important work to real warriors." The meeting continued for 2 more hours. Elena sat quietly as species discussed patrol schedules and defense budgets. The Corvan Empire had the largest fleet with over 50,000 warships. The Zephyrians had advanced technology that made their smaller fleet very effective. Even minor species like the Alderani Republic had hundreds of modern vessels. When the session ended, Elena walked back to her quarters on Nexus Prime. Her room was small and simple with basic furniture. She activated her communication device and waited for the encrypted connection to establish. After a few moments, a man's face appeared on the screen. "Admiral Chen reporting," the man said. He wore the uniform of Earth Space Command, but with extra insignia that few people had ever seen. "Uncle Marcus," Elena said with a small smile. They were not actually related, but had known each other since she was a child. The Corvin are getting more aggressive. Thax made his usual speech about human weakness. Admiral Chen's weathered face showed no expression. "And the others?" "Same as always. They see us as useful workers, but not real players in galactic politics." Elena sat down on her simple bed. "How much longer do we have to pretend?" Chen looked at something off-screen, probably reading reports from across the galaxy. "The Prometheus protocol is almost ready. Another few months of preparation should be enough." Elena nodded. She had grown up hearing whispered stories about Prometheus, humanity's greatest secret. Even now, only a few hundred humans in the entire galaxy knew the full truth. "The Corvin are planning something big," she continued. "Thax keeps talking about teaching lessons to species that don't respect proper authority." "We know," Chen replied. "Our people in the Corvin communication networks report increased military activity. They're moving ships toward the inner systems." Elena felt a chill run down her spine. The inner systems contained the homeworlds of several smaller species, including Earth. If the Corvin were planning an attack there, millions could die. "What are our orders?" she asked. "Keep watching and reporting. Make sure everyone still thinks we're harmless miners and farmers. When the time comes, you'll know what to do." The communication ended. Elena sat alone in her small room, thinking about the day's events. Outside her window, she could see the lights of countless ships moving around Nexus Prime. Cargo haulers, passenger liners, and military escorts went about their business. Some of those ships belonged to humans, though nobody paid attention to them. Elena had seen the cargo manifest for human vessels. They carried mining equipment, food supplies, and manufactured goods to colonies across the galaxy. The ships looked old and slow compared to alien technology. Their crews seemed friendly, but unremarkable. Other species found humans useful for labor and basic trade, but nothing more. What those other species didn't know was that every human ship carried more than its official cargo. Hidden compartments held advanced equipment that would have shocked galactic scientists. Crews that appeared to be simple miners and traders had received military training that surpassed most galactic special forces. Even the ships themselves were not what they seemed. Elena thought about her own journey to Nexus Prime. She had traveled on a human cargo vessel called the Desert Wind. To external sensors, it looked like an old, slow freighter carrying grain from Earth's agricultural colonies. The crew wore simple work clothes and spoke with regional accents from various human worlds. But Elena had seen the ship's real capabilities during a brief test. Hidden engines could push the vessel faster than most military cruisers. Concealed weapon systems could destroy ships 10 times its size. The grain in the cargo hold was real, but underneath it lay military supplies that could equip an entire army. Every human ship in space carried similar secrets. For 50 years, since humanity first joined the Galactic Confederation, they had been building and hiding their true capabilities. Other species saw what they expected to see: a young, primitive culture trying to find its place among advanced civilizations. Elena's communication device chimed softly. A message appeared with the seal of the Corvin Empire. She opened it and read the official text. Her hands began to shake as she understood what it meant. The message was addressed to all species in the inner systems. It gave them 72 hours to accept Corvin rule or face complete military destruction. The ultimatum mentioned 3 species by name: the Alderani Republic, the Vikshari Crystal Collective, and humanity. Elena immediately sent the message to Admiral Chen through encrypted channels. Then she walked to her window and looked out at the stars. Somewhere in that darkness, the largest military force in galactic history was moving toward human space. General Thax commanded over 10,000 warships, including massive dreadnoughts that could destroy entire planets. She activated her personal communicator and sent a simple message to Commander Ross and Dr. Chen. "Emergency meeting in my quarters in 10 minutes. When her colleagues arrived, Elena showed them the Corvin ultimatum. Ross, a quiet man who rarely spoke in council meetings, read the message twice before responding. 72 hours, he said slowly. That's not much time for evacuation. Dr. Chen, the team's science advisor, looked confused. Evacuation? Where could we go? The Corvin fleet is too large and fast. They could catch any refugee ships. Elena looked at both men carefully. She had worked with them for 3 years, but had never been sure how much they knew about humanity's real situation. Are you afraid? She asked quietly. Ross and Chen exchanged glances. Then Ross smiled for the first time since Elena had known him. Afraid? Ross said. Elena, I've been waiting for this day for 20 years. Dr. Chen laughed softly. Did you think the Prometheus Committee would send unprepared people to represent humanity at the Galactic Council? Elena felt relief flood through her body. Both men knew about the secret that humanity had kept from the galaxy for decades. Then you know what comes next, Elena said. The galaxy is about to learn that they have seriously underestimated the human species, Ross replied. Outside their window, the stars continued their ancient dance. Somewhere among them, thousands of human ships were receiving coded signals. In hidden bases throughout the galaxy, men and women were activating systems that had waited patiently for this moment. The Corvin Empire had made their choice. Soon every species in the galaxy would understand that humanity was not the weak, primitive culture they appeared to be. The children of Earth had been preparing for this day since they first looked up at the stars and wondered who else might be watching. General Thax had called humans miners and farmers. In 72 hours he would discover what those miners and farmers had been building in the darkness between worlds. News of the Corvin ultimatum spread across the galaxy faster than light itself. Communication networks buzzed with emergency broadcasts as species learned that General Thax had declared war on 3 civilizations. Galactic news channels showed the same footage over and over. Massive Corvin warships leaving their home systems, heading toward the inner systems where billions of innocent beings lived. On the crystal world of Vicshari Prime, the entire population began a desperate evacuation. Their ships, beautiful vessels that looked like flying jewels, launched from every spaceport. The Vicshari were peaceful traders who had never built weapons stronger than mining tools. They had no choice but to run and hope they could find somewhere safe. The Alderani Republic called an emergency session of their government. Their leaders argued through the night about surrender terms. Some wanted to fight, but everyone knew their small fleet could not stop even a fraction of the Corvin armada. By morning, they had drafted an official letter of surrender, hoping General Thack would show mercy to their colonies. But from Earth and the human colonies came only silence. Every species in the galaxy expected humanity to be the first to surrender. Human space forces were tiny compared to other civilizations. Their technology seemed decades behind the galactic standard. Most importantly, humans were known to be practical people who avoided unnecessary risks. The silence from human space confused galactic observers. News reporters tried to contact human colonies but received only automated messages saying, "Communications temporarily restricted." Ships approaching human systems found their sensor readings blocked by some kind of interference. On Nexus Prime, Elena watched the galactic news with her fellow humans. The 3 of them sat in Elena's quarters, drinking simple coffee while the galaxy panicked around them. Commander Ross monitored communication channels on a basic human device. Dr. Chen read reports on his tablet, occasionally sharing updates with the others. The Vicshari have evacuated 4 billion people so far, Chen reported. Their ships are heading toward the outer rim, but they don't have enough fuel to get very far. The Alderani government has officially surrendered, Ross added. They're broadcasting their submission on all frequencies, hoping Thax will hear it. Elena nodded but said nothing. She stared out the window at the stars, thinking about what was happening in human space at that very moment. Deep beneath the surface of Earth's moon, Admiral Marcus Chen walked through corridors that officially did not exist. The Luna Command Center had been built over 40 years ago, carved out of solid rock and hidden from all sensors. The facility housed the most advanced technology humanity had ever created, along with the people who would decide the fate of the galaxy. Admiral, Chen entered the main control room where dozens of technicians worked at sophisticated displays. Each screen showed different parts of human space, monitoring ships and bases that other species had never detected. At the center of the room sat a large chair surrounded by holographic displays showing the entire galaxy. "Status report," Chen ordered as he took his seat. Captain Martinez, his second-in-command, approached with a data tablet. "All Prometheus assets are responding to activation signals. We have confirmation from 847 hidden installations across 23 sectors." Chen nodded. For decades, humanity had been placing secret bases throughout the galaxy. What other species saw as mining operations and research stations were actually military installations, equipped with the most advanced weapons technology ever developed. "Fleet status?" he asked. 847 vessels have been activated and are standing by," Martinez replied. "Another 1,200 are in final preparation stages. We should have full operational capacity within 18 hours. Chen looked at the galactic display showing the positions of known military forces. The Corvin fleet appeared as red dots moving toward human space. They numbered over 10,000 ships, including some of the largest vessels ever built. By contrast, humanity's official fleet showed as barely a dozen small dots near Earth. What the display didn't show were the thousands of human ships that had spent years disguised as civilian vessels. Cargo haulers that were actually battleships. Mining platforms that were really weapon stations. Research vessels that carried enough firepower to destroy entire fleets. "Communications?" Chen asked. Lieutenant Park, the communications officer, turned from her station. "We're receiving surrender demands from the Corvin Empire every 6 minutes. General Thax wants a response within the next 12 hours. And the other species? The Zephyrians have offered to accept human refugees in exchange for mining rights to our outer colonies. The Ethereal Collective suggests we consider peaceful relocation to avoid unnecessary conflict." Admiral Chen almost smiled. Even now, with humanity facing apparent destruction, other species were trying to profit from the situation. They saw humans as helpless victims who could be saved in exchange for valuable concessions. "Any word from our people on Nexus Prime?" he asked. "Captain Vasquez reports that galactic attention is focused on the Corvin fleet movement. No one suspects our true capabilities." Chen stood up and walked to a wall display showing Earth from orbit. The blue and green world looked peaceful and defenseless. Cities glowed softly in the night side, while day side showed white clouds over brown continents. To any observer, Earth appeared to be a normal planet with no special defenses. That appearance was carefully maintained. Earth's real defenses were hidden on the dark side of the moon, in asteroid bases throughout the solar system, and in installations that looked like ordinary space stations. The planet humanity called home was actually the most heavily defended world in galactic history. "Send a message to all Prometheus assets," Chen ordered. "Begin Phase 1 activation. I want every hidden base and disguised ship ready for combat within 6 hours." "Yes, sir," Martinez replied. "Should we prepare surrender terms for the Corvin?" Chen looked at her with an expression that made several junior officers step backward. "Captain Martinez, humanity did not spend 50 years preparing for this moment, so we could surrender to overgrown lizards with anger problems. Throughout human space, coded signals began reaching their destinations. On mining asteroids in distant systems, automated machinery stopped digging ore and began uncovering hidden weapon batteries. Cargo ships traveling routine trade routes suddenly changed course and began shedding their outer hulls to reveal sleek warships underneath. In the Kepler system, what appeared to be a simple fuel depot suddenly came alive with activity. The station's outer sections folded away like flower petals, revealing massive gun turrets and missile launchers. Within minutes, the peaceful refueling stop had transformed into a fortress capable of destroying anything that approached. Similar transformations were happening throughout the galaxy. Human installations that had operated for decades as ordinary civilian facilities revealed their true nature. Each one had been carefully placed to provide maximum strategic advantage while remaining completely hidden from alien detection. The transformation was not limited to bases and stations. Human merchant ships throughout the galaxy received the same coded signals. The Desert Wind, which had carried Elena to Nexus Prime, suddenly stopped delivering grain shipments and began revealing its hidden weapon systems. Its crew of apparently simple farmers quickly changed into military uniforms and began preparing for combat. Captain Torres, commander of the Desert Wind, opened a secure channel to his crew. "All hands, this is the captain. Operation Prometheus is now active. Switch to combat configuration and prepare for Phase 2 orders." The ship's cargo bay opened to space, ejecting hundreds of tons of grain into the void. Underneath the food, supplies, advanced military equipment emerged from concealed compartments. Weapon systems that had been disguised as cargo handling equipment unfolded into deadly missile launchers. The ship's simple-looking engines revealed additional power cores that could push the vessel faster than most military cruisers. Within 2 hours, the Desert Wind had transformed from a slow cargo hauler into one of the most advanced warships in the galaxy. The same transformation was happening to hundreds of similar vessels throughout human space. General Thax, commanding the Corvin fleet from his flagship World Ender, received regular reports on human activity. His intelligence officers noted the communications blackout and the strange sensor readings from human space, but they interpreted these as signs of panic and desperate defensive preparations. "The humans are trying to hide their pathetic evacuation efforts," Thax told his staff officers. "They know they cannot fight us, so they scramble like insects when the lights come on." His tactical officer, Commander Vex, studied the sensor reports more carefully. "Sir, we're detecting unusual energy readings from several human systems. The patterns don't match normal evacuation procedures." Thax dismissed the concern with a wave of his clawed hand. "Humans have always been tricky with their technology. They probably have some kind of sensor jamming to make their fleet look larger than it is. We know they have only a few dozen ships, at most." The Corvin fleet continued its steady advance toward human space. 10,000 warships moved in perfect formation, their weapons powered up and ready for battle. Thax had planned a quick campaign that would demonstrate Corvin's strength to the entire galaxy. He would destroy the human fleet in a matter of hours, then demand tribute from every species that had witnessed humanity's defeat. Back on Nexus Prime, Elena received a coded message on her personal communicator. The text appeared to be a routine family greeting from her sister on Earth, but Elena recognized the hidden meaning immediately. She turned to Commander Ross and Dr. Chen. "Prometheus Phase 1 is complete. All assets are active and ready." Ross nodded and activated his own communicator. "I'll inform the Confederation Council that humanity wishes to make an official statement about the Corvin ultimatum." "What should I tell them?" Elena asked. Ross smiled, the same cold expression she had seen the night before. "Tell them that humanity appreciates their concern and will respond to General Thax's demands in our own way." Dr. Chen laughed quietly. "After tomorrow, the galaxy will never look at humans the same way again." Elena walked to her window and looked out at the stars. Somewhere in that darkness, the largest space battle in galactic history was about to begin. General Thax believed he was hunting helpless prey. Instead, he was about to discover that humanity's ancestors had been the most successful predators their planet had ever produced. The children of Earth had learned those lessons well. The galaxy watched in complete silence as sensors across known space detected something impossible. What had started as routine monitoring of the approaching Corvin fleet suddenly became the most watched event in galactic history. Every species, with space technology, turned their telescopes and sensors toward the Sol system, expecting to witness humanity's quick destruction. Instead, they saw something that challenged everything they thought they knew about the universe. The first impossible reading came from the Zephyrian Deep Space Monitoring Station in the Vega sector. Chief Sensor Technician Kayla 9 had been tracking the Corvin fleet's approach when her instruments began showing massive energy signatures appearing throughout human space. "Supervisor," Kayla 9 called to her superior, "I'm detecting multiple large objects powering up in the Sol system. The energy readings are off our scales." Supervisor Vex 12 approached Kayla 9's station with mechanical precision. Zephyrians rarely showed emotion, but even Vex 12's metallic features registered surprise at the sensor data. These readings indicate vessels larger than Corvin dreadnoughts, Vex 12 stated. Scan for system malfunctions. All systems are operating perfectly, Kayla 9 replied. The energy signatures are real, and they're not just in the Sol system. I'm detecting similar readings from human installations across 17 different sectors. Vex 12 immediately activated priority communications to the Zephyrian High Council. This information was too important to process through normal channels. Similar scenes were playing out at observation posts throughout the galaxy. The ethereal, collective psychic monitoring network suddenly detected minds they had never sensed before. Thousands of human consciousness patterns that had somehow remained hidden for decades. The revelation shocked their collective awareness so badly that several ethereal beings lost consciousness entirely. On the crystal world of Vixari Prime, the few remaining observers who hadn't evacuated watched their instruments with growing amazement. Their crystal-based technology was among the most sensitive in the galaxy, capable of detecting energy patterns across vast distances. What they saw emerging from human space defied explanation. By the light of the first crystal, whispered observer Velthar. How did they hide ships that large? The answer to that question was becoming clear to military analysts throughout the galaxy. Humanity had not been hiding ships. They had been hiding an entire civilization's true nature. In the Sol system, Admiral Marcus Chen watched the tactical display from his command center beneath Luna's surface. Thousands of red dots representing human vessels appeared on the screen as ships throughout the galaxy dropped their stealth systems and revealed their true nature. All Prometheus assets report ready for Phase 2, Captain Martinez announced. We have 2,147 vessels active, and another 800 coming online every hour. Chen nodded and activated the system-wide communication channel. All ships, this is Admiral. Chen began full revelation protocol. I want every sensor in the galaxy to see exactly what they're dealing with. Throughout the Sol system, space itself seemed to come alive. What had appeared to be empty space around Earth began revealing massive structures that had been hiding behind advanced stealth technology. Ships the size of small moons uncloaked near Jupiter. Weapon platforms that dwarfed the largest known. Stations emerged from behind asteroids. The flagship of humanity's secret fleet, the indomitable Spirit, appeared near Mars with a flash of energy that could be seen from Earth's surface. The vessel was 3 times larger than any ship in galactic records. Its hull bore no resemblance to any known human technology. Instead of the simple, functional designs other species associated with humanity, the ship looked like it had been built by a completely different civilization. Similar vessels appeared throughout human space. Each one was larger and more advanced than anything in the official galactic databases. Their weapon systems powered up with energy readings that made nearby space itself glow with released radiation. But the Sol system was only the beginning. Across the galaxy, human installations that had operated for decades as peaceful mining, stations and research outposts began revealing their true nature. In the Kepler system, the humble fuel depot that had served thousands of alien ships suddenly transformed into a fortress bristling with weapons. Its true size became apparent as hidden sections emerged from subspace storage. What had appeared to be a simple station was actually larger than most species' capital ships. The transformation was not limited to space installations. On Colony, worlds throughout human territory, underground facilities that had been invisible to orbital scans suddenly came online. Massive defense networks emerged from beneath the surface of planets that other species had dismissed as agricultural settlements. Even more shocking was the revelation about human merchant vessels. Every cargo ship, every passenger liner, every simple transport that had traveled galactic trade routes for decades began dropping their disguises. Hull plating fell away to reveal advanced armor underneath. Cargo bays opened to show weapon systems that had been hidden for years. Engines that had seemed old and slow suddenly blazed with power that exceeded the fastest military cruisers. Captain Torres aboard the Desert Wind opened a channel to the Corvin fleet. His voice was calm and professional as he spoke to beings who had mocked humanity just days before. "General Thax, this is Captain Torres of the human vessel Desert Wind. I believe you classified my ship as a primitive grain hauler in your intelligence reports. I thought you might like to see what we've really been carrying." The Desert Wind's cargo bay opened fully, ejecting the last of its grain supplies into space. Underneath, a weapon system emerged that made the ship's true nature clear. The vessel was not a cargo hauler with hidden weapons. It was a battleship that had been disguised as a cargo hauler. General Thax, watching from the bridge of his flagship World Ender, felt something he had not experienced in decades of warfare: genuine fear. His tactical officers scrambled to update their battle plans as sensor readings continued to pour in from across the galaxy. "How many ships do the humans actually have?" Thax demanded. Commander Vex studied the incoming data with growing confusion. "Sir, our estimates were based on official fleet registrations and observed patrol patterns. We calculated 12 to 15 human vessels in total." "And now?" "Current sensor readings indicate over 3,000 active human warships, with more appearing every minute. Many of them are larger than our own dreadnoughts." Thax stared at the tactical display showing human fleet positions. Red dots representing enemy vessels surrounded his forces on all sides. Ships that should not exist were emerging from space that should have been empty. "This is impossible," he growled. "How do you hide 3,000 warships for 50 years? The answer to that question was becoming clear to intelligence analysts throughout the galaxy. Humanity had not hidden their fleet through advanced stealth technology alone, though that was certainly part of it. They had hidden their true capabilities by making everyone believe humans were exactly what they appeared to be: a young, primitive species that posed no threat to established galactic powers. Every human interaction with other species had been carefully designed to reinforce that impression. Human diplomats like Elena Vasquez had played their roles perfectly, appearing competent but unremarkable. Human merchants had sold agricultural products and basic manufactured goods at reasonable prices, seeming grateful for the opportunity to participate in galactic trade. Human researchers had published papers on safe, non-threatening topics, while their real discoveries remained classified. Most importantly, humanity had never given any species a reason to look closer. They had been helpful neighbors, reliable trading partners, and peaceful colonists. Other species had seen exactly what they expected to see because humans had been very careful to meet those expectations. The ethereal collective, whose psychic abilities had made them the galaxy's unofficial leaders for thousands of years, attempted to probe human minds and understand their intentions. What they discovered forced them to withdraw their consciousness in shock and terror. Human minds were not only immune to ethereal telepathy, they were actively harmful to psychic contact. When ethereal beings tried to read human thoughts, they encountered mental patterns that seemed to burn their awareness like acid. Worse, they sensed something in human consciousness that they had never experienced before: the focused, predatory intelligence of a species that had evolved by hunting other intelligent creatures. The ethereal High Council called an emergency session for the first time in 3,000 years. Their collective voice, usually calm and wise, carried overtones of genuine panic as they addressed their people. "The beings we called humans are not what they seemed," the council declared. "They are apex predators who learned to disguise themselves as harmless prey. We have been sharing the galaxy with creatures whose ancestors conquered their world through warfare and intelligence. Throughout the galaxy, the realization of humanity's true nature spread like wildfire. Species that had considered humans useful but harmless suddenly understood that they had been patronizing one of the most dangerous civilizations ever encountered." Admiral Sarah Martinez, commander of the Sol Defense Fleet, opened a direct communication channel to General Thax. Her image appeared on screens throughout the Corvan fleet, a human woman with calm eyes and a slight smile that somehow seemed more threatening than any weapon. "General Thax," Martinez said in a voice that carried across space to every listening civilization, "you demanded that humanity surrender within 72 hours. I thought you might like to know that we've decided to decline your generous offer." Thax found his voice after a long moment of silence. You cannot have hidden this from us. Our intelligence networks cover every species in the galaxy. Martinez's smile widened slightly. General, did you really think a species that conquered its own world through warfare would enter a galaxy full of potential threats without adequate preparation? We've been studying you since the day we first left our solar system. Studying us? Thakis's voice cracked slightly. Every trade agreement taught us about your economies. Every diplomatic meeting revealed your political structures. Every joint scientific project showed us your technology. For 50 years, we've been learning everything there is to know about galactic civilization, while you've been learning nothing about us. The implications of Martinez's words spread through the galactic communication networks like poison. Humanity had not just been hiding their military capabilities. They had been conducting the largest intelligence-gathering operation in galactic history. While other species saw humans as harmless newcomers, humans had been systematically studying every aspect of galactic civilization. "What do you want?" Thax finally asked. Admiral Martinez looked directly into the camera, and every being watching felt the weight of her gaze. "We want the same thing we've always wanted, General. To live in peace. The question is whether you're going to let us do that, or whether we're going to have to teach the galaxy why evolution produced apex predators." The communication ended, leaving the galaxy in stunned silence. In less than 6 hours, everything had changed. The species that everyone had underestimated as primitive newcomers had revealed themselves as the most advanced civilization anyone had encountered, and they were just getting started. General Thax stood on the bridge of the World Ender, his massive frame trembling with rage and confusion. Around him, his officers worked frantically at their stations, trying to make sense of sensor readings that challenged everything they knew about galactic military capabilities. "This is impossible," Thax growled for the 10th time in an hour. "No species can hide this level of military development. Our spy networks would have detected it." Commander Vex looked up from his tactical display, his expression grim. "Sir, I've been analyzing the human fleet compositions. Their technology appears to be at least 50 years ahead of anything in our databases. Some of their energy signatures don't match any known weapon systems." Thax slammed his clawed fist on the command console, leaving deep scratches in the metal. "I don't care what their sensors say. We have 10,000 ships. Even if the humans have 3,000, we still outnumber them. We attack as planned." "General," Vex said carefully, "perhaps we should consider negotiation. The humans have clearly been preparing for this confrontation. They might be willing to discuss terms." Thax turned on his second-in-command with fury burning in his red eyes. "The Corvan Empire does not negotiate with prey species. We are the dominant military power in this galaxy. We will show these hidden humans why entire civilizations bow before our might." He activated the fleet-wide communication system. "All ships, this is General Thax. The humans have revealed some hidden vessels, but they are still vastly outnumbered. We attack in 1 hour, destroy everything that moves, leave no survivors." Across the galaxy, billions of beings watched as the largest space battle in recorded history began to unfold. Every species with sensor capabilities had turned their attention to the Sol system, expecting to witness humanity's destruction despite their surprising revelations. The Corvan fleet advanced in their traditional battle formation, with massive dreadnoughts at the center surrounded by layers of cruisers and destroyers. The World Ender led the formation, its hull bristling with enough weapons to destroy small planets. Admiral Martinez watched the Corvan approach from the bridge of the Indomitable Spirit. Her command staff remained calm and professional, their voices quiet as they coordinated humanity's response. "Corvan fleet is entering weapons range in 30 minutes, reported her tactical officer. "All human vessels report ready for combat." "Fighter squadrons?" Martinez asked, standing by in launch bays. "We have over 12,000 fighters ready for deployment." Martinez nodded. The Corvan had expected to fight a few dozen human ships. Instead, they would face the most advanced military force ever assembled. But numbers and technology were only part of humanity's advantage. The real difference lay in training and tactical thinking that had been developed over 50 years of careful preparation. "Open a channel to General Thax," Martinez ordered. The Corvin commander's scarred face appeared on the main screen, his expression filled with arrogant confidence. "Human Admiral," Thax sneered. "You have impressed the galaxy with your hidden ships, but impressive displays mean nothing in real combat. Surrender now and I will allow your species to serve the Corvin Empire as skilled workers." Martinez smiled the same cold smile that had shocked the galaxy during her previous communication. "General, I tried to give you a chance to withdraw. You should have taken it. You think your 3,000 ships can defeat the might of the Corvin Armada?" Thax laughed, a harsh sound that echoed across the communication channel. 3,000? Martinez looked genuinely confused. "General, I think your intelligence reports are out of date. We have 4,1047 active vessels in this system alone, and that's just the sole defense fleet." Thax's laughter died as his sensor officers confirmed the Admiral's statement. The human fleet had grown even larger while they were talking. Ships continued to emerge from stealth throughout the solar system. "Impossible," Thax whispered. "General," Martinez continued in the same calm tone, "you demanded that 3 species surrender to Corvin rule. I thought you should know that all 3 species have decided to refuse. The Alderani Republic has withdrawn their surrender and placed their fleet under human protection. The Vikshari have asked us to defend their evacuation ships, and humanity." She paused. "Well, I think you're beginning to understand our position." "You're bluffing," Thax snarled. "No species would trust humans to protect them." Martinez gestured to someone off-screen. A moment later, the communication expanded to include 2 additional faces, Ambassador Kresh of the Alderani Republic and Crystal Singer Vel of the Vikshari Collective. "General Thax," Ambassador Kresh said formally, "the Alderani Republic officially withdraws our surrender and places our military forces under human command for the duration of this conflict." Crystal Singer Vel's translated voice carried harmonics of determination. "The Vikshari Collective requests human protection for our people and our worlds. We have seen what humanity is capable of." Thax stared at the screen in disbelief. In less than a day, humanity had somehow convinced 2 other species to trust them completely. The strategic implications were staggering. "Attack!" Thax roared. "All ships open fire!" The Corvin fleet unleashed the largest coordinated weapons barrage in galactic history. Thousands of energy beams and missiles streaked across space toward the human formations. The display was so massive that it could be seen with the naked eye from planets light years away. What happened next shocked every observer in the galaxy. The human fleet didn't scatter or try to evade the incoming attack. Instead, they simply absorbed it. Energy shields that had been invisible until that moment suddenly blazed with light as they deflected weapons that should have destroyed entire ships. The most powerful Corvin weapons struck human vessels and simply disappeared, their energy somehow absorbed and dissipated. "Impossible!" Thax screamed. "No shields can stop that much firepower." Admiral Martinez's voice came through the communication channel, still calm and professional. "General, our shields are based on principles your scientists haven't discovered yet, but perhaps you'd like to see what our weapons can do." The human fleet's response began slowly, almost gently. A few dozen human ships fired single energy beams at Corvin vessels. The weapons looked almost primitive compared to the massive barrage the Corvin had just unleashed. Then the Corvin ships began to explode. The energy beams didn't just damage the Corvin vessels, they tore through their hulls like paper. Shields that had protected Corvin ships for centuries collapsed instantly. Armor that could withstand direct hits from dreadnought cannons melted like ice in sunlight. "Evasive maneuvers!" Thax ordered desperately. "All ships, evasive maneuvers!" But the human weapons seemed to anticipate every movement. Corvin ships twisted and turned through space, but the energy beams followed them like living things. Targeting systems that had never missed their mark found themselves unable to lock onto human vessels that seemed to bend space around themselves. The battle, if it could be called that, lasted exactly 17 minutes. When the firing stopped, over half the Corvin fleet had been destroyed or disabled. The surviving ships floated powerless in space, their systems overloaded by weapons effects they couldn't understand. The mighty World Ender, pride of the Corvin Navy, limped away with its engines barely functional and holes burned through its supposedly impenetrable armor. General Thax, his bridge partially destroyed and half his crew unconscious, stared at the tactical display in complete shock. His fleet, the largest military force in galactic history, had been defeated so quickly and completely that it seemed like a nightmare. Admiral Martinez's face appeared on his damaged communication system. "General, your surviving ships are free to leave. Tell the galaxy what you've seen here today." "What are you?" Thax whispered, his voice barely audible. Martinez's expression grew serious. "We're the species you should have left alone, General. We're the children of a world where everything was trying to kill us, so we learned to kill everything first. We came to the stars hoping to find friends, but we prepared to find enemies." She paused, looking directly at the broken Corvan commander. "You made the mistake of thinking we were prey. We're not prey, General. We're the things that prey fears." The communication ended, leaving Thax alone with the wreckage of his fleet and his shattered understanding of the galaxy. But the demonstration in the Sol system was only part of humanity's response. Throughout galactic space, similar scenes were playing out wherever Corvan forces had been stationed. In the Centauri sector, a Corvan patrol fleet that had been threatening civilian shipping found themselves surrounded by human vessels that had emerged from apparently empty space. The human commander offered them one chance to surrender. When Waido, the Corvan commander, refused, his fleet was disabled in under 10 minutes. Near the Vikshari homeworld, Corvan ships that had been preparing to attack the evacuation convoys suddenly detected massive human battleships emerging from hyperspace. The Corvan fled without firing a shot, leaving the crystal beings under human protection. In the Alderani system, a human task force arrived just as Corvan ground troops were preparing to land on the Republic's capital world. The human ships didn't just drive off the invasion force, they completely destroyed it, leaving no survivors to report what had happened. Word of humanity's overwhelming victory spread through galactic communication networks faster than the light of the explosions themselves. Species that had watched the battle with their own sensors could barely believe what they had witnessed. The Zephyrian High Council called an emergency session to discuss the human problem. Their logical minds struggled to process how completely they had misunderstood humanity's capabilities. The ethereal collective withdrew into deep meditation, their psychic abilities still burning from contact with human minds. For the first time in their ancient history, they had encountered beings whose thoughts they could not read and whose intentions they could not predict. Throughout the galaxy, emergency meetings were called as civilizations realized that everything they thought they knew about galactic power structures had changed overnight. On Nexus Prime, Captain Elena Vasquez walked into the Confederation Council chambers wearing a different expression than she had ever shown before. Gone was the humble diplomat who had endured mockery and dismissal. In her place stood a representative of the most powerful military force the galaxy had ever seen. The chamber was packed with representatives from every major species, all of them staring at the human section with mixtures of fear, respect, and disbelief. Elena took her seat and activated her communication device. "Ladies and gentlemen," she said in a voice that carried to every corner of the chamber, "I believe we need to discuss some changes to galactic policy. The age of humanity, hiding in the shadows, was over. The galaxy would never be the same again. The aftermath of humanity's revelation sent shockwaves through every corner of galactic civilization. In the hours following the destruction of the Corvan fleet, emergency broadcasts flooded communication networks as species struggled to understand what they had witnessed. On the crystalline world of Zephyr Prime, the ruling High Council gathered in their chamber of pure logic. For 3,000 years, they had made decisions based on careful analysis and mathematical precision. Now they faced a problem that defied all their calculations. The human military demonstration exceeded our projections by 847%, announced Counselor Prime 9, his metallic voice carrying undertones of confusion. Our models predicted human capabilities based on observed technology and fleet size. All models were fundamentally incorrect. Counselor Logic 12 reviewed streams of data flowing across holographic displays. Analysis of human weapons technology indicates scientific advancement beyond our current understanding. Their shield systems operate on principles not found in any galactic database. Recommendation? Asked Prime 9. The Council processed data for 4.7 seconds, an unusually long time for Zephyrian decision-making. Finally, Logic 12 spoke. Immediate diplomatic contact with human leadership. Priority, maximum cooperation and non-aggression agreements. Agreed, Prime 9 replied. Initiate surrender protocols. Similar conversations were happening throughout the galaxy, but nowhere was the panic more intense than in the remaining Corvan territories. General Thax's broken fleet had managed to return to Corvan space, bringing news that shattered their empire's confidence. Emperor Vask, supreme ruler of the Corvan Empire, listened to Thax's report with growing disbelief. The massive reptilian leader sat on his throne of conquered weapons, surrounded by trophies from 100 defeated civilizations. You are telling me, Vask said slowly, that these primitive humans destroyed half our fleet in 17 minutes? Thax knelt before his emperor, his scarred body showing fresh wounds from the battle. Your Majesty, they are not what they appeared to be. Their technology is beyond anything we have encountered. Their weapons cut through our best armor like it was made of paper. And their numbers? At least 5,000 ships in the Sol system alone, with more appearing throughout the galaxy. Our intelligence estimates were off by thousands of %. Emperor Vask rose from his throne, his massive form casting shadows across the chamber. For 800 years, the Corvan Empire had grown through conquest and intimidation. They had never encountered a species they could not defeat or force into submission. What are their demands? Vask asked. Thax looked up with confusion. That is the most disturbing part, Your Majesty. They have made no demands. They simply defend themselves and others. The human admiral said they want to live in peace. Peace. Vask laughed, but the sound held no humor. No species builds that kind of military force for peace. Perhaps, Thax said quietly. They build it to ensure peace. The implications of that statement settled over the Corvan leadership like a dark cloud. A species that built overwhelming military power, not for conquest but for protection, was something entirely outside their understanding. On Nexus Prime, the Galactic Confederation Council had been in continuous emergency session for 18 hours. Representatives from dozens of species filled the chamber, their voices creating a chaos of panic, confusion, and desperate bargaining. Captain Elena Vasquez sat in the human section, no longer alone. Admiral Martinez had arrived with a full diplomatic team, transforming the small corner of the chamber into a center of galactic attention. Every species wanted to speak with the humans, to understand their intentions, to ensure their own survival. The ETA, Alderani Ambassador Kresh, was the first to speak formally. The Alderani Republic wishes to thank humanity for their protection and to formalize our alliance. We place our fleet and our resources at humanity's disposal. Crystal Singer Vel of the Vikshari floated near the human section, her crystalline form reflecting the chamber's lights in patterns that conveyed deep gratitude. The Vikshari collective owes humanity a debt that can never be repaid. Our entire species lives because of your intervention. Admiral Martinez stood to address the chamber. The noise of dozens of conversations died instantly, as every being present focused on her words. Fellow members of the Confederation, she began, her voice carrying clearly through the chamber. I want to address the concerns that have been raised about humanity's capabilities and intentions. She activated a holographic display showing current galactic territory. For 50 years, humanity has been content to remain a minor partner in galactic civilization. We asked for nothing more than the right to trade freely, colonize uninhabited worlds, and participate peacefully in the community of intelligent species. The display changed, showing the recent Corvan aggression. 3 days ago, the Corvan Empire issued an ultimatum demanding that 3 species submit to their rule or face destruction. This was not the first such ultimatum, merely the latest, in a pattern of escalating aggression that threatened the stability of galactic civilization. Murmurs of agreement rippled through the chamber. Many species had suffered under Corvan threats and demands. Humanity's response was not conquest or retaliation, Martinez continued. We simply defended ourselves and those who asked for our protection. The Corvan fleet was disabled, not destroyed. Their surviving ships were allowed to return home, unharmed. Ambassador Thrain of the Ethereal Collective floated forward, his form shimmering with psychic energy. When he spoke, his voice echoed directly in the minds of everyone present. Admiral Martinez, Thrain said, the Ethereal Collective has concerns about humanity's true nature. Our psychic probes have detected mental patterns unlike any we have encountered. Your species carries the consciousness of apex predators. Martinez nodded calmly. Ambassador Thrain, that is correct. Humanity evolved on a world where survival required constant vigilance and the ability to eliminate threats. We are predators, by nature. The admission sent a wave of fear through the chamber. Several smaller species began broadcasting emergency signals to their homeworlds. However, Martinez continued, raising her voice slightly, we are also intelligent beings capable of choice. We choose to use our predatory instincts to protect rather than to hunt. We choose to be shepherds rather than wolves. She gestured to the chamber around them. Look at this room. Dozens of species, many of whom have been enemies for centuries, sitting together in peace. The Confederation has given us something our ancestors never had, a community worth protecting. Elena stood and moved to join Admiral Martinez at the center of the chamber. Humanity's terms for galactic peace are simple, she announced. End the wars, stop the conquest, protect the weak. We will enforce these terms not through conquest, but through the certainty that any species which threatens galactic peace will face overwhelming force. The chamber erupted in discussions as species representatives consulted with their governments. The implications were staggering. Humanity was not demanding tribute or territory. They were demanding that the galaxy learn to live in peace. Admiral Chen's voice came through the chamber's communication system from Earth. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to be very clear about humanity's position. We have no interest in ruling the galaxy. We have no desire to conquer or subjugate other species. We simply refuse to allow the strong to prey upon the weak. He paused, allowing his words to sink in. For those species who choose cooperation and peace, humanity will be the most reliable ally you have ever known. For those who choose aggression and conquest, well, I believe you have seen our response to the Corvan Empire. Over the following days, the galaxy began to transform in ways that would have seemed impossible just weeks before. The first to formally surrender was the Corvan Empire itself. Emperor Vask, faced with the choice between submission and the complete destruction of his civilization, chose survival. The surrender ceremony took place on Nexus Prime, with representatives from across the galaxy watching as the proud Corvan Empire formally ended its campaigns of conquest. General Thax, his armor polished but his spirit broken, read the terms of surrender in a voice barely above a whisper. The Corvan Empire hereby renounces all claims to territory acquired through aggression. We withdraw our forces to our original borders and pledge to resolve all future disputes through diplomatic means. We accept human oversight of our military activities and agree to contribute to galactic peacekeeping efforts. Admiral Martinez accepted the surrender with the same calm professionalism she had shown throughout the crisis. The Corvan people are welcome to join the new galactic community as equals. Your military expertise, properly directed, will help maintain the peace we are all building together. The transformation was not limited to the major powers. Throughout the galaxy, smaller conflicts that had raged for decades suddenly ended as combatants realized that humanity would not tolerate continued aggression. Border disputes were resolved through arbitration rather than warfare. Trade routes that had been plagued by piracy became safe as human patrol ships appeared wherever they were needed. Some species struggled with the new reality. The hegemony of Vorth attempted to continue their slave trading operations, believing that humanity's attention was focused elsewhere. They discovered their error when human ships appeared at every Vorth slave market simultaneously, offering freedom to the captives and destruction to any who opposed them. The liberation of the slave markets took less than 6 hours. The fourth hegemony ceased to exist as an independent power, its leadership imprisoned and its territory placed under human administration until a democratic government could be established. But for every species that resisted, 10 others embraced the new galactic order. The benefits of peace became apparent quickly as trade flourished, scientific cooperation advanced, and resources that had been wasted on military buildup were redirected toward improving life for billions of beings. 1 year after the revelation of humanity's true strength, Captain Elena Vasquez stood in the same Confederation Council chamber where she had once been dismissed and mocked. The room looked the same, but everything else had changed. The human section was no longer a small corner of the chamber. It had been expanded to accommodate the representatives of the dozens of species that had formally requested human protection and guidance. The Alderani Republic, the Vikshari Collective, and many others now worked directly with humanity to maintain galactic peace. Elena called the session to order. The first annual Galactic Peace Accord review is now in session. We will begin with reports from each sector on compliance with peace agreements. The reports were overwhelmingly positive. Armed conflicts between species had dropped to the lowest level in recorded galactic history. Trade had increased by 340%. Scientific cooperation had led to breakthroughs that benefited every participating civilization. But the most important change was less tangible but more profound. The galaxy species had begun to see themselves as part of a larger community rather than as competitors struggling for dominance. Children of different species played together on mixed worlds. Scientists shared discoveries freely across species lines. Art and culture flowed between civilizations in an unprecedented flowering of creativity. Ambassador Thrain of the Ethereal Collective addressed the assembly with something approaching wonder in his psychic voice. For 10,000 years, our collective has observed the rise and fall of civilizations. We have seen countless species destroy themselves through warfare and aggression. Never before have we witnessed the emergence of true galactic civilization. He paused, his form shimmering with complex emotions. Humanity has accomplished something we believed impossible. They have taught the galaxy to choose cooperation over conquest, protection over predation. Admiral Martinez, now serving as humanity's chief representative to the Confederation, smiled as she replied, "Ambassador, we simply did what any responsible species would do when faced with threats to innocent life. We protected those who could not protect themselves." "But you did more than that," Thrain insisted. "You showed us that strength can be used to nurture rather than to destroy. You proved that the most dangerous predators can choose to become guardians." Elena looked out, the chamber windows at the stars beyond. Somewhere out there, human ships patrolled trade routes and protected peaceful worlds. Other vessels explored new systems, always ready to defend any innocent life they encountered. The children of Earth had indeed become shepherds, watching over a galaxy that had finally learned to live in peace. In her final log entry of the day, Elena wrote, "They called us miners and farmers, thinking they were insulting us. They didn't realize that farmers understand the value of protecting what grows, and miners know the importance of building strong foundations. We have given the galaxy both, protection for those who seek to grow, and a foundation of peace that will last for generations to come." The galaxy had learned that humanity's greatest strength was not their weapons or their technology, but their choice to use overwhelming power in service of peace. And in learning that lesson, every species in known space had discovered something they had never imagined possible. A future worth building together.
The massive alien salvage ship drifted closer to what looked like just another piece of space junk. Its powerful scanning beams swept across the dark hull of the human warship that floated lifelessly among the debris. Inside the seemingly dead vessel, Captain James Reed held his breath. He and his crew of 50 had been playing this game of dead for the past 3 days. "Status report," Reed whispered into his comm unit, even though he knew the aliens couldn't hear him through the special walls of his ship. "Engineering reports all systems ready, sir," his first officer, Tom White, replied just as quietly. It was an old habit they'd developed during their years of hiding and fighting. The shadow drive is running silent, and they're seeing exactly what we want them to see: a broken warship. Reed allowed himself a small smile. The UES Phantom had earned its name many times over during the border wars. While other ships fought with brute force, the Phantom was different. It was humanity's secret weapon, a prototype stealth destroyer that could change its appearance like a ghost. One day it would look like a simple cargo ship, the next like a mighty battlecruiser. The aliens never knew what they were really seeing until it was too late. The alien salvage crew was getting closer now. Their ship was huge, easily 4 times the size of the Phantom. Through the bridge windows, Reed could see their mechanical arms reaching out, ready to grab what they thought was valuable scrap metal. They had no idea they were about to wake a sleeping giant. "All hands to battle stations," Reed ordered, his voice still barely above a whisper. "But nobody moves until my mark." Throughout the ship, 50 men and women tensed at their posts, ready for action. They were all that remained of the original crew of 300, but they were the best of the best. The salvage ship's arms were just meters away now. Reed watched as the first magnetic clamp attached itself to the Phantom's outer hull. The aliens would be celebrating their find. Human warships were made of expensive materials, and their technology was highly valued on the black market. "Sir," White called from his station, "they're powering up their cutting beams. They're going to try to slice us up." Reed nodded. "Just what we were waiting for. Stand by." He watched as more clamps attached to his ship, locking the salvage vessel into position. A faint red glow appeared as the aliens powered up their cutting equipment. They were about to learn a very expensive lesson about being too greedy. "Phantom crew," Reed said into the ship-wide comm. "Light her up." In an instant, the supposedly dead warship came to life. Emergency hatches slammed shut around the alien clamps, trapping them in place. The Phantom's special hull plating, which had been absorbing energy from the alien scans, now pulsed with power. Before the salvage crew could react, their own magnetic clamps turned against them, sending powerful feedback surges through their systems. "Show them our true face," Reed ordered. The shadow drive activated, and the Phantom's outer appearance shifted. Gone was the battle-scarred, dead-looking hull. In its place stood the sleek, deadly form of humanity's most feared warship. The aliens tried to back away, but it was too late. They were locked together by their own equipment. "Target their engines and weapons only," Reed commanded. "No unnecessary casualties today." The Phantom's gun ports opened, revealing rows of precision laser batteries. The weapons fired in perfect sequence, cutting through the salvage ship's defenses like they were made of paper. Within seconds, the massive alien vessel was dead in space, its engines smoking and weapon systems destroyed. "Open a channel," Reed said. When White nodded, he spoke clearly and firmly. "Alien vessel, this is Captain James Reed of the UES Phantom. Your ship is disabled. You have 10 minutes to evacuate to your life pods. After that, we're taking everything of value from your holds. Consider this payment for trying to salvage a ship that didn't belong to you." The alien captain's response came quickly, their translator making their fear clear. "Please, we surrender. We didn't know this was the Phantom. Everyone knows the Phantom was destroyed in the Battle of 7 Suns." Reed couldn't help but smile again. "The reports of our destruction were greatly exaggerated. 9 minutes and 30 seconds remaining. I suggest you start moving." The crew watched as life pods began launching from the alien ship. Each one was scanned to ensure no weapons or hidden surprises were being planned. This wasn't the first time someone had tried to trick them, and it wouldn't be the last. "Sir," White said, checking his displays, picking up multiple distress calls being sent from those pods. "They're calling for help. Military help." "Good," Reed replied, surprising his first officer. "Let them call. By the time anyone arrives, we'll be gone with the supplies we need. More importantly, the story will spread. The Phantom still hunts these spaceways, and we're still protecting human interests." As the last life pod launched, Reed's crew began their well-practiced salvage operations. They had gotten very good at quick resupply missions like this. They had to be. There weren't many friendly ports for a ship that officially didn't exist anymore. While his crew worked, Reed went to his private quarters and looked at the old star map on his wall. Somewhere out there, Earth's government was still fighting against the alien powers that had forced them into an unfair surrender. His superiors had ordered him to scuttle the Phantom and give up its secrets when the surrender was signed. Instead, he and his loyal crew had taken the ship into deep space, becoming a legend that kept Earth's enemies looking over their shoulders. "Captain," White's voice came over the comm. "You need to see what we found in their cargo hold. Looks like these weren't just simple salvage workers. They'd got military-grade weapons hidden under false floors. Newest stuff too, still in factory wrapping." Reed's expression hardened. "Document everything. Copy all their computer data. I want to know where those weapons came from and where they were going." He looked back at his star map, at the routes he'd marked in red where similar salvage ships had been spotted. A pattern was forming, one that suggested the war might not be as over as everyone thought. The Phantom had started its journey as a ghost ship, playing dead to survive. But now it had become something more, a shadow that haunted the dreams of those who would threaten humanity. And if Reed was right about what these weapon shipments meant, the galaxy would soon learn why even the mightiest alien powers feared the sight of a single human warship appearing on their scopes. In the distance, tiny dots of light marked the approach of alien military vessels responding to the distress calls. But by the time they arrived, they would find only an empty salvage ship stripped of its illegal cargo, its crew safely in life pods, and another story to add to the legend of the ship that refused to die. The Phantom would vanish into the darkness of space, ready to strike again wherever and whenever humanity's enemies least expected it. The stars streaked by as the Phantom moved silently through space, its hull still warm from the recent encounter with the salvage ship. In his quarters, Captain Reed looked at the old photos on his desk while his crew sorted through their newly acquired supplies. The images showed a younger version of himself standing proud at the Phantom's first launch ceremony, back when the ship was humanity's greatest hope rather than its last shadow of resistance. "Captain," White's voice came through the comm, "you might want to see this recording we found on the salvage ship's computers. It's from 3 years ago, during the Battle of 3 Fleets." Reed's hand tightened around his coffee mug. That battle had been the Phantom's finest hour, though few knew the true story. "Play it on my screen," he ordered. The video showed an alien war council meeting. 3 different alien commanders argued around a holographic table, their translator units converting their angry voices to human speech. "It's impossible," one shouted, bringing his fist down. "Our scouts reported 12 human warships, but the humans only had 5 ships in that sector." "The Shadow Fleet is real," another commander insisted. "My own flagship was destroyed by a human dreadnought that appeared from nowhere. But when we tracked it on sensors, it had somehow turned into a small patrol boat." Reed smiled as he watched. The truth was both simpler and more impressive than the aliens knew. There had never been a Shadow Fleet. There had only been the Phantom, using its revolutionary stealth technology to appear as different ships in different places. While other ships could only hide, the Phantom could change its entire sensor profile in seconds. He remembered that day clearly. His ship had danced between 3 separate alien fleets, appearing as a massive battleship one moment and a swift corvette the next. The aliens had shot at sensor ghosts while the Phantom struck from unexpected angles, its advanced weapons slicing through their confused formations. White appeared at his door. "Sorry to interrupt your trip down memory lane, sir, but you need to hear this." He played another recording, this one much more recent. It was hidden in a secret compartment of their computer core. The recording showed a different alien, this one wearing the elaborate uniform of a high-ranking military officer. "The human ghost ship must be found," the alien said. "The longer it remains active, the more our people question the victory we claimed." There are already whispers that if one human ship can defy us, perhaps humanity is not as weak as we told our citizens. Reed leaned forward. This was exactly the effect they'd hoped for when they decided to keep fighting. The Phantom wasn't just a warship anymore. It had become a symbol of hope for humans and a shadow of doubt for their enemies. "There's more," White said, switching to another file. "Look at the date on this one." It was from just before the war, when the Phantom was still a secret project. Reed watched as engineers swarmed over the ship's skeletal frame in the construction dock. He remembered those days well. The Phantom was supposed to be the first of 50 ships of its class, a new type of vessel that would revolutionize space warfare. "We were so close," Reed said quietly. 2 more weeks, and the second ship would have been ready. 3 more months, and we would have had 5 of them. But the aliens had attacked before the fleet was ready. In those desperate first days, Reed had been ordered to take the Phantom, the only completed ship, and run. "Save our greatest weapon," his superiors had told him. "Don't let them capture this technology." The Phantom had fled, but Reed and his crew had turned their retreat into a hunting mission. They struck at enemy supply lines, rescued human colonies before they could be attacked, and gathered intelligence that saved countless lives. Each time they appeared, stories would spread through alien communication channels about the mysterious human ships that could change their shape at will. "Sir," his tactical officer called over the comm, "we've decoded more of the salvage ship's data. You're going to want to see these shipping manifests." Reed and White headed to the bridge. The tactical display showed dozens of routes, all carrying weapons and supplies to places they shouldn't be going. "It's all happening in neutral space," White observed. "Places where military ships aren't supposed to be." "They're preparing for something," Reed said, studying the patterns. "All these shipments, they're building up forces while pretending to honor the peace treaty." He turned to his crew. "How many of you remember the Scorpion maneuver?" The bridge crew smiled. The Scorpion maneuver had been their most daring trick, used when they needed to convince the enemy they were facing an entire battle group instead of a single ship. It required perfect timing and pushed their shadow drive to its limits, but the effect was worth it. "Plot me a course that intersects these supply routes," Reed ordered. "If they're moving weapons, we're going to make them regret it. And this time, we're going to make sure everyone knows why these ships are disappearing." The crew jumped into action, their movements showing the confidence of long practice. They had started this journey with 300 crew members, the full complement for a ship of the Phantom size. Now they operated with just 50, each person doing the work of 6, but they were better at their jobs than ever. "Remember," Reed said to his crew, "we're not just fighting for ourselves anymore. Every time we strike, we show the aliens that humanity isn't beaten. Every story they tell about the Shadow Fleet helps keep them cautious, makes them think twice before breaking the treaty openly." As the Phantom changed course to intercept the nearest supply route, Reed thought about all the names the aliens had given them. The Ghost Ship, the Shapeshifter, the Shadow That Strikes. Each name added to their legend, and that legend protected human worlds more effectively than a fleet of normal warships could have. "Multiple contacts ahead," Tactical reported. 3 ships, same class as our previous target, all showing salvage registrations, but their power readings match military craft. Reed settled into his command chair. "Power up the shadow drive. Let's remind them why they fear the dark of space." He looked at the tactical display, already planning how to make 3 salvage ships see an entire human battle fleet bearing down on them. The Shadow Fleet rides again. The Phantom's hull shimmed, its outline becoming uncertain as the shadow drive spun up to full power. Soon, alien sensors would show impossible things, and more stories would spread about the human ships that could appear and disappear at will. The legend would grow, and with it, humanity's chances of surviving whatever their enemies were planning. "All hands, battle stations," Reed ordered. "Let's give them something new to fear." Admiral Stone slammed his fist on the holographic display, making the image of the destroyed salvage ships flicker. His large office aboard the Galactic Concordat's flagship buzzed with nervous energy as his staff officers tried to avoid his angry gaze. The latest reports confirmed his worst fear. The Phantom was active again. 3 years, he growled, his cybernetic eye glowing brighter with anger. 3 years I've hunted that ghost ship, and still it slips through our fingers. He touched the scar on his face, a permanent reminder of his last encounter with the human vessel. His mighty flagship had been reduced to scrap that day, and he barely escaped with his life. Admiral, his intelligence officer spoke up, we've analyzed the attack pattern. The salvage ships reported seeing 5 different human warships, but we know it was just the Phantom using its shadow drive technology. It's staying in this sector. The officer highlighted a region of space on the map. Stone smiled coldly. Then we'll catch it there. Order every available ship to that sector. I want 30 warships, not those disguised cargo haulers. This time, we hunt it properly. Across space, aboard the Phantom, Captain Reed and his crew were making a disturbing discovery. White had finally cracked the encryption on the data they'd stolen. Captain, look at these messages, he said, displaying them on the main screen. They're not just shipping weapons. They're shipping components for something bigger. Reed studied the supply manifests carefully. These parts, they're for planet-killer weapons, the same type they used to force Earth's surrender. His face hardened as he remembered that dark day. The aliens had threatened to destroy Earth's colonies one by one unless humanity surrendered. What choice did they have? That's not all, White continued. The surrender treaty, it was based on lies. Look at this. He showed another document, this one showing that the aliens had only built one planet killer, not the fleet they claimed to have. They'd bluffed, and Earth had folded. The bridge crew fell silent as they absorbed this news. Everything they'd fought for, everything they'd lost. It was all based on a trick. But before they could process this revelation, the tactical officer shouted a warning. Multiple ships dropping out of faster-than-light travel. 30. No, 35 warships. They're forming a search pattern. Sir, it's Admiral Stone's personal fleet. Reed quickly assessed the situation. They were trapped in the sector, with Stone's ships blocking all the usual escape routes. The Phantom was good, but even it couldn't fight 35 warships at once. Not directly, anyway. They're broadcasting a message, communications reported. Admiral Stone's face appeared on their screen, his cybernetic eye gleaming. Captain Reed, I know you can hear me. Your reign of terror ends today. Surrender now, and I'll ensure your crew is treated fairly. Resist, and I will turn this sector of space into your grave. Reed muted the transmission and turned to his crew. Options. The asteroid field, his navigator suggested, pointing to a dense cluster of space rocks. We could use the shadow drive there, make them see multiple ships among the asteroids. Confuse them. They'll expect that, White argued. Stone's hunted us too long. He knows our tricks. Reed looked at the tactical display, a plan forming in his mind. Then we'll give him something he doesn't expect. Plot a course for the largest asteroid in that field, and get me everything we have on Stone's command ship's sensor systems. The Phantom moved slowly toward the asteroid field, making it look like they were trying to hide. Stone's fleet followed cautiously, expecting tricks. They'd fallen for the Phantom's deceptions too many times before. Sir, Tactical reported, they're splitting their fleet into 3 groups. They're going to try to box us in. Reed nodded. Perfect. They think they know what we're going to do. Power up the shadow drive. But not like usual. This time, we're going to show them something new. The crew worked quickly, making adjustments to their unique stealth system. Usually, they used it to make the Phantom appear as different ships. This time, they had a different plan. Stone's flagship is in range, White reported. They're charging weapons. Now, Reed ordered, show them their worst nightmare. The shadow drive activated, but instead of making the Phantom look like other ships, it made them disappear completely. At the same time, their sensors sent out carefully crafted false readings. To Stone's fleet, it looked like hundreds of asteroids in the field had suddenly come alive, each one appearing to be the Phantom. They're firing. Tactical shouted as Stone's ships opened up with their main guns, blasting asteroids apart in their confusion. Hold position, Reed commanded calmly. Let them waste their ammunition. White, how long until that data burst is ready? 2 more minutes, Stir. We'll be able to transmit the truth about the surrender to every ship in their fleet simultaneously. Stone's ships continued their barrage, destroying asteroid after asteroid, each one potentially hiding the real Phantom. But Reed had positioned his ship in the one place they wouldn't think to look, right above Stone's flagship, matching its speed exactly, hidden in its sensor blind spot. Sir, communications called out, we're picking up confused chatter from their fleet. Some of their ships are starting to question Stone's tactics. They're burning through their weapon charges for nothing. Reed watched the chaos unfold. Stone's perfectly organized fleet was falling into disarray, ships moving out of formation as they chased sensor ghosts. Prepare to broadcast. Let's show them what they're really fighting for. The truth about the fake surrender, about the single-planet killer weapon, about all of Stone's lies. It would reach every ship in his fleet. But first, they had to survive the next few minutes. Enemy ship approaching our position. Tactical warned. They'll spot us any second. Reed gripped his command chair. Hold steady. White, is that transmission ready? Yes, sir, ready to broadcast on all frequencies. Good. Reed allowed himself a small smile. Because I think it's time we remind Admiral Stone why they call us the ghost ship that haunts their nightmares. The Phantom's weapons powered up silently, still hidden in Stone's flagship's blind spot. Soon, the truth would spread through the alien fleet, and the real battle would begin. The hunt had become a trap, but not the one Admiral Stone had planned. The ghost ship was about to strike again, and this time, it carried more than just weapons. It carried the truth that could restart the war. The space around Admiral Stone's flagship lit up with weapons fire as the Phantom revealed itself. One moment, Stone's bridge crew was staring at sensor ghosts in the asteroid field. The next, alarms blared as the human warship appeared practically on top of them, its guns already firing. Impossible, Stone shouted as his flagship shuddered under the precise attacks. The Phantom wasn't trying to destroy his ship. Instead, it was surgically disabling their main communication arrays and weapon systems. How long have they been there? Before anyone could answer, every screen on every ship in his fleet began displaying the same message. The Phantom was broadcasting the secret files, showing how Stone and his allies had tricked humanity into surrender with a bluff about planet-killer weapons. Sir, his communications officer called out, we're getting questions from the other ships. They're asking if this is true. Stone's cybernetic eye flashed red with rage. Shut down all communications, lock out their computer systems. But it was too late. The truth was spreading through his fleet like wildfire. Aboard the Phantom, Reed watched as confusion spread through the enemy fleet. Some ships stopped firing at the asteroids. Others turned their sensors toward Stone's flagship, as if seeking confirmation or denial of the shocking revelations. They're powering up their main guns, White warned, pointing at Stone's flagship. They're going to try to destroy us before we can broadcast anything else. Reed had expected this. Execute Maneuver 7. Let's show them what the shadow drive can really do. The Phantom's engines flared as it launched away from Stone's flagship. But instead of fleeing, the human ship did something no one had seen before. Its shadow drive activated at full power, and suddenly there appeared to be 5 Phantoms, each one moving in a different direction. Which one is real? Stone screamed at his sensor operators. Find the real ship. The truth was, they were all real. In a way. The Phantom's shadow drive wasn't just creating fake sensor readings anymore. It was bending light and energy around the ship, creating perfect copies that could even fire weapons. Each copy only lasted a few seconds, But that was all they needed. All 5 Phantoms fired at once, their beams converging on Stone's flagship from different angles. The alien ship's shields buckled under the assault. On Stone's bridge, systems began failing as the coordinated attack overwhelmed their defenses. "Sir," White called out to Reed, "3 enemy destroyers are moving to attack. But 4 others are powering down their weapons. They're refusing Stone's orders to fire." Reed nodded grimly. The truth was having its effect. Not every alien captain was willing to keep fighting once they learned they'd been tricked into an unjust war. Stone wasn't finished, though. His flagship, despite its damage, launched a spread of missiles at the Phantom. "If I can't have the ghost ship," he roared, "I'll turn it into real ghost." "Incoming missiles," Tactical shouted. "Too many to shoot down." Reed remained calm. "Deploy the decoys. Full power to the shadow drive. Execute the Scorpion's tail." The Phantom's special technology activated again, but this time it did more than create copies. The ship seemed to split apart, its image fracturing into dozens of smaller pieces. The missiles, confused by the multiple targets, started exploding harmlessly in space. While Stone's attention was focused on the missile attack, Reed put the next phase of his plan into action. "Broadcast on all frequencies," he ordered. "Show them the rest." New information began flowing to every ship in Stone's fleet. Not just about the fake surrender, but about the secret weapon shipments they'd discovered. About how Stone and his allies were preparing for another war while pretending to honor the peace treaty. More alien ships began powering down their weapons. A few even turned their guns toward Stone's flagship, demanding answers from their admiral. "Sir," White reported with a smile, picking up transmissions from the alien ships. They're arguing about who has the right to arrest Admiral Stone." But Stone wasn't going to be arrested. His flagship's engines suddenly flared to full power as he tried to escape. "You haven't won," his voice crackled over the comm. "I still have one more secret you don't know about." Reed watched as Stone's damaged ship turned toward open space. "Target his engines," he ordered. "Don't let him escape." The Phantom's gun spoke again, but Stone's ship was built to take punishment. Despite multiple direct hits, it managed to limp away from the battle, trailing debris and plasma. "Should we pursue?" White asked. Reed studied his tactical display. Most of Stone's fleet had stood down, with ships now approaching each other cautiously, trying to figure out what to do next. But a few loyal captains were moving to follow their admiral. "No," Reed decided. "Stone's finished as a military leader. Those files we broadcast have seen to that, but his last words worry me." What secret was he talking about? The answer came sooner than expected. One of Stone's officers, seeing his commander flee, decided to save himself by sharing what he knew. "Human vessel," a new voice called over the comm. "You need to know. Stone's heading for the testing grounds. That's where we built it. Where we built the new planet killer." The bridge crew of the Phantom fell silent. Finally, White spoke what everyone was thinking. He's going to prove the threat was real. Even if it's too late to save his career, he's going to show everyone that he could have destroyed Earth's colonies. Reed's expression hardened. Everything the Phantom had done, every battle they'd fought, had been to protect humanity from exactly this kind of threat. They couldn't let Stone reach that weapon. "Plot an intercept course," he ordered, "and send a message to every ship that stood down. Tell them if they want to prove they're really on the side of truth, now's their chance. Stone has to be stopped." The Phantom's engines powered up, its hull rippling as the shadow drive cooled down from its intense use. They were damaged from the battle, running on minimal crew, and about to chase a desperate man with nothing left to lose. But that had never stopped them before. "Sir," White said quietly, "if Stone's telling the truth about this weapon, we might not be able to stop it with just one ship." Reed looked at his faithful crew, the 50 people who had turned one prototype vessel into a legend that haunted the dreams of humanity's enemies. "We're not just one ship," he reminded them. "We're the Shadow Fleet, and it's time for one last hunt." The Phantom accelerated into space, following the trail of Stone's flagship. Behind them, several alien vessels began moving to join the pursuit. The legend of the ghost ship had changed. Now it wasn't just a story to frighten alien commanders. It was a symbol of truth that could unite even former enemies against a greater threat. They had one last battle ahead of them. One last chance to prove that a single ship with the right crew and the right cause could change the course of history. The hunt was on. And this time, the ghost ship wasn't hunting from the shadows. This time, it was leading the charge into the light. The Phantom raced through space, following the trail of Admiral Stone's damaged flagship. Behind them, 5 alien ships that had once been their enemies now followed in formation, their crews having chosen truth over blind loyalty. Ahead lay the testing grounds where Stone's secret weapon waited. Status report. Reed commanded, studying the tactical display that showed Stone's ship getting closer to their destination. Shadow drive is at 60% power, White reported. Main guns are fully charged, but our rear shields are still weak from the battle. The alien ships are keeping pace with us, but they're nervous. Their sensors are picking up something big ahead. They all saw it a moment later. A massive space station appeared on their screens, its central section shaped like a massive gun barrel pointed at the stars. Around it floated construction pods and defense platforms bristling with weapons. "That's it," the tactical officer announced. "That's the planet killer. It's bigger than anything we've ever seen." Stone's voice crackled over their comm system, filled with manic triumph. "Do you see it now, Captain Reed? This is what real power looks like. One shot from this weapon can crack a planet in half. Think about that. All your tricks, all your clever tactics, mean nothing against this." Reed watched as Stone's flagship docked with the station. Around the Phantom, their alien allies slowed their ships, clearly frightened by what they were seeing. This wasn't just a weapon. It was a nightmare made real. "Sir," White said quietly, "if he brings that weapon online." "He won't," Reed stated firmly. He opened a channel to their alien allies. "This is why we kept fighting after the surrender. This is why the Phantom never gave up. Are you with us?" There was a moment of silence. Then the alien ships responded one by one, pledging their support. They had seen the truth about Stone's lies, and they couldn't let this weapon be used. "Good," Reed said, "because I have a plan. But it's going to take all of us working together." He turned to his crew. "Power up the shadow drive. Full power, everything we have left. We're going to show them the true meaning of a ghost ship." The station's defenses came alive as they approached, filling space with energy beams and missiles. The alien ships moved into attack formation, drawing fire while the Phantom enacted Reed's plan. "Shadow drive at maximum power," engineering reported. "We can't maintain this for long." "We won't need long," Reed assured them. The Phantom's special technology activated, but this time it did something new. Instead of creating multiple images of their ship, it bent light and energy around them in a way they'd never tried before. To everyone watching, it looked like the Phantom had vanished completely. Not just from sensors, but from sight itself. They had become a true ghost ship. "By the stars," one of their alien allies gasped over the comm. "Where did they go?" Stone's voice betrayed his first hint of fear. "Find them. They have to be out there somewhere. Power up the main weapon. I'll destroy the nearest human colony to show them what happens to those who defy us." But the Phantom was already moving, invisible to every scan and sensor. They slipped through the station's defensive screen, past the weapons that fired blindly into space. Reed had guessed right. The station's sensors couldn't track what they couldn't see. "Engineering reports the shadow drive is overheating," White warned. "We've got maybe 2 minutes before it fails." "That's all we need," Reed said. "Get our allies clear. Tell them to be ready." The Phantom glided closer to the station, its invisible form passing right next to Stone's docked flagship. On the station's bridge, Stone was shouting orders, trying to bring the planet killer online before his enemies could stop him. "Target locked. Tactical reported. "We're in position." Reed took a deep breath. Everything they'd fought for came down to this moment. Drop the cloak. Show them where we are. And fire everything we have. The Phantom suddenly appeared inside the station's defensive perimeter, so close that its hull nearly touched the massive weapon. Its guns opened up at point-blank range, targeting specific weak points they'd identified in the station's design. Stone screamed in rage as he realized what was happening. The Phantom wasn't just attacking. It was breaking the station apart with surgical precision, hitting power conduits and structural supports that their scans had revealed. "The planet killer is powering up," White shouted. "They're going to try to fire it." "No, they're not," Reed said calmly, "because we're not alone." The alien ships that had joined them suddenly opened fire from multiple directions, their weapons striking the exact points the Phantom had weakened. They had coordinated this attack during their pursuit, each ship knowing its role. The station's superstructure began to break apart. The planet killer weapon, not yet fully powered, exploded in a cascade of secondary detonations. Stone's flagship, still docked to the dying station, was caught in the destruction. "All ships, clear the blast radius," Reed ordered. The Phantom's engines flared as they pulled away from the exploding station. Behind them, Stone's voice cut off mid-scream as his flagship was consumed by the very weapon he had built to threaten others. The shadow drive finally failed as they reached safe distance, but they didn't need it anymore. Everyone watched as the massive station tore itself apart, its pieces scattering into space. The threat it represented died with its creator. "Captain," communications called out, "we're getting messages from everywhere. The alien ships that stood down earlier, they're broadcasting what happened. The story is spreading through every fleet, every world." Reed nodded. "Let them tell it. Let everyone know that the ghost ship didn't just haunt their nightmares. It brought them the truth. And let them know that when it mattered most, their own people chose to help us destroy a weapon that never should have existed." The alien ships formed up around the Phantom, no longer as enemies or even reluctant allies, but as partners who had chosen to do what was right. Their crews transmitted messages of respect and friendship to the human vessel that had become legend. "Sir," White said with a smile, "they're asking what we should do next. They say their governments will have questions about all this." "Then we'll answer them," Reed replied. "Together. The war started with lies and fear. Let it end with truth and cooperation." He looked at his crew, the 50 people who had helped turn one ship into a symbol of hope. The Phantom was built to hide in shadows, but sometimes the greatest victories come from stepping into the light. The ships turned together and headed for Earth. The Phantom had started its journey as a ghost story told to frighten alien commanders. It had become something more, a legend that proved one ship with the right crew and the right cause could change the course of history. They would face challenges ahead. There would be questions to answer, treaties to negotiate, and trust to rebuild. But they had shown that even the mightiest powers could be brought down by the truth, and that former enemies could become allies when they chose to stand together against a real threat. The Shadow Fleet, which had never been more than one ship and its brave crew, had completed its final mission. But its legend would live on, not as a tale of fear, but as a story of hope. Proof that sometimes the most powerful weapon isn't the biggest gun or the strongest shield, but the courage to stand up for what's right, no matter the odds.